You spend enough time on the road, hauling freight across this big, strange country, and you learn there are different kinds of empty. There's the peaceful empty of a clear, floor-lane interstate at 3 a.m. There's the hostile empty of the Nevada desert in August. And there's the North Dakota empty. It's in a class all by itself, a masterpiece of desolation. The land out there rolls in long, slow, mournful waves of brown grass. The sky is immense, a crushing weight of blue or gray. And the wind out there never, ever stops. It's a constant, low, whistling moan. You feel like a single, solitary ant crawling across a giant's cold, indifferent floor. I was on a dead-hole run, heading west out of Fargo. A freak blizzard shut down I-94. The CB was buzzing about an alternate, an old state highway, a forgotten two-lane blacktop that cut a straight line through the heart of the Badlands. It was a risk. Cell service out there is just a comforting myth, but it promised to shave 6 hours off my trip. And in this job, 6 hours is an eternity. So I took it. The first 50 miles were just empty. Rolling hills, the occasional lone cow. The sun was getting low, painting the clouds in shades of rust and deep violet. The road itself was surprisingly, unnervingly good. A smooth, dark ribbon of fresh asphalt. It was almost too good for a road this forgotten. My mind was starting to drift into that hazy, half-aware state you get at the end of a long day. My world had shrunk down to the drone of my engine and the yellow lines unspooling in my headlights. And that's when I saw the first sign. It was a standard issue, diamond-shaped, reflective yellow warning sign, the kind you see 1,000,000 times a day, except for the words. 3 of them, printed in queen, black letters that looked perfectly, professionally, chillingly official. He is watching. I read it, and my tired brain took a full 5 seconds to process. My first thought wasn't fear. It was a weary irritation. Damn kids, I muttered. It had to be a prank. Some bored farm kids or some artsy college students with a vinyl cutter. I'd seen it all before. But as I drove on, the strangeness of it stuck in my head. It was the professionalism that was gnawing at me. The letters were perfectly centered. The font was the exact kind the Federal Highway Administration uses. The sign itself looked brand new. It was a good prank, a little too good. And the placement? Out here, in the middle of absolute nowhere? Who was the intended audience? Just me? The effort seemed vastly disproportionate to the payoff. Against my better judgment, I started paying more attention to my mirrors, scanning the barren hills now sinking into deep shadow. Who was he? The sign had already done its insidious work. It had taken the peaceful landscape and turned it into a stage, and now I felt like the only actor on it, being watched by a silent, unseen audience. I shook my head, trying to dislodge the paranoid thoughts. It's the fatigue, I told myself. I drove for another 10, maybe 15 miles. The land grew darker, the hills more jagged. I was just starting to forget about the weird sign when my headlights picked up another bright yellow diamond in the distance. My heart gave a little thump. I leaned forward, squinting. My rational mind was hoping for a deer silhouette, just a normal, boring sign, please. But as the words came into focus, a fresh wave of cold dread washed over me. It was another message. This one had just one word on it, a single, sharp, electrifying command. Run.
Okay, now that's not funny, I said out loud. All the amusement was gone. A cold, slimy tendril of real fear was starting to worm its way up from my gut. 1 sign is a prank, 2 signs is a pattern, and the pattern was getting increasingly, terrifyingly personal. Run? Run from what? From him? I was in a 40-ton Peterbilt, a fortress of steel and noise. And yet, the simple, stark command sent a shiver down my spine. The profound isolation, which had been a peaceful companion just 30 minutes earlier, now felt like a mortal vulnerability. The emptiness was no longer a blank canvas. It was a cage. I checked my phone again. No signal, of course. My CB was silent. I was completely on my own. I found my thumb hovering over the switch for the door locks. I pressed it. I heard the satisfyingly loud clunk thump as the deadbolt shot home. It was a pointless, irrational act, but the sign had told me to run. And this was my version of running. I began to feel a creeping paranoia take hold. Every long, deep shadow looked like a person, standing and watching. Every sudden rustle of the wind sounded like a footstep. Was this the entire point of the signs? A sick, elaborate psychological game? I drove on, my eyes darting between the road ahead and my huge side mirrors. The landscape was pitch black now. But then, after what felt like an eternity, another yellow diamond appeared in the night. I felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. I was starting to truly dread these signs. My headlights illuminated the words, and this one was different. It wasn't a warning or a command. It was a statement of fact, and it was the most terrifying, the most invasive, most impossible one yet. He's in the cab.
I swear to God, my heart stopped. I read the words, and the world just went silent. The roar of the engine faded. All I could hear was a frantic, roaring rush of blood in my own ears. It was a lie. It had to be a lie. Just another part of the game. They knew I was alone. This was meant to make me panic, to make me crash. I was alone. I had locked the doors. The windows were up. I was alone. I didn't dare look at the passenger seat. My eyes were glued to the road, my body rigid with a fear so absolute it felt like I was encased in ice. My mind was a screaming chaos of frantic rationalization, battling pure animal terror. It's meant to make me look. If I look away from the road, I'll drift. I'll roll the rig. Don't look. Don't give them the satisfaction. But the human mind is a treacherous thing. The more I told myself not to look, the more powerful the urge became. I could almost feel a presence in the cab with me, a cold spot in the warm air. I lasted for maybe 3 minutes. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I had to prove the sign was a lie. My eyes, they flickered. Just a quick, furtive, half-second glance to the right. The empty passenger seat. My rumpled atlas, my logbook. Empty. The relief that washed over me was so potent it almost made me dizzy. It was a lie. A brilliant, terrifyingly effective lie. I let out a ragged, shaky, laughing sound. "You bastards," I whispered. And it was in that exact moment of relieved distraction that I came over a small rise, and there it was. Another sign, perfectly centered in my high beams. The last sign. Turn around. Something in my tired mind snapped. The fear was replaced by a hot surge of pure defiant anger. No, absolutely not. I was not playing their game anymore. I pushed the accelerator down even harder. And it was in that moment of angry defiance that I made my fatal mistake. It was just a habit, a trucker's reflex. You see a sign, you check the mirrors. My eyes flicked up instinctively to the small rearview mirror mounted above the windshield. I saw the reflection of the dark, empty passenger seat. And for a fraction of a second, a sliver of a moment so brief, I would spend my life wondering if I'd imagined it. I saw it. There was no person, no face, but in the mirror's reflection, sitting on that empty seat, was a shape, a subtle distortion in the air, a patch of darkness that was somehow denser than the surrounding shadows. And it moved, a quick, subtle, silent flicker, the kind of impossible movement that tells you that you are not and have not been alone for a long time. There was no thought. There was no decision-making process. The part of my brain that handles logic just shut down. The only thing left was the oldest, most primitive part, the lizard brain, the part that only knows two words, fight and flight. And brother, fighting was not an option. It screamed a single silent command through every nerve in my body. Go! The threat was not on the road anymore. The game was over. The threat was inside. My boot, already heavy on the accelerator, stomped down with the force of a hydraulic press. The Peterbilt's big cat engine let out a primal, guttural, deep-chested scream as it redlined. The whole rig shuddered as it shot forward, the speedometer climbing past 80, then 90, the needle quivering in a place it was never designed to go. The wind shrieked past my windows. I didn't care. I didn't look in any mirrors. I didn't dare. My entire universe was now the narrow, violently shaken tunnel of my headlights. I refused to acknowledge the existence of the passenger seat. In my mind, it was a block of forbidden, haunted, empty space. With a fumbling hand, I slapped the switch for the dome light, flooding the entire cab with the harsh, clinical, beautiful white light. I was trying to banish the shadows, but the bright light only made the suffocating darkness outside the windows seem blacker. I drove like that for what felt like a lifetime, just pure, blind, high-speed panic. Then, up ahead, a new kind of light, not the Marlin and Jello diamond, but the warm, steady glow of civilization. High-pressure sodium street lamps. It was the intersection with the main U.S. highway. I had made it. I blew through the stop sign at 70 miles an hour, my air horn blasting a long, desperate wail into the night. My rig leaned hard as I fishtailed onto the blessed, wide, four-lane highway. The first oncoming truck that passed me felt like a rescue party. I wasn't alone anymore.
I drove another 10 miles before I saw the welcoming neon of a 24-hour truck stop. I pulled in, then killed the engine. The silence that followed was heavy, but it was a normal silence, filled with the comforting sounds of other trucks idling. It was the sound of the sane, logical world. I didn't get out right away. I just sat there, my whole body trembling with the aftermath of an adrenaline dump. Finally, I got up the nerve to look. I turned my head slowly and stared at the passenger seat. It was empty. The atlas and the logbook were exactly where I'd left them. There was no indentation in the cushion, nothing. I got out and did a slow walk around, checking every lock, every seal. I found absolutely nothing. I never told anyone the full story of what happened that night. Who would believe me? They'd say I was overtired, that the empty road played tricks on my mind. And maybe they'd be right. But I know what I saw. I saw those signs, those professional, perfect signs, and I saw that impossible, horrifying flicker of darkness in the mirror. I never took that road again. I'd rather take the 200-mile detour in a blizzard. And to this day, when I'm driving alone on a dark, empty highway, I'll sometimes catch myself checking the passenger seat in the rearview mirror, just a quick, nervous glance. And sometimes, before I start a long night shift, I'll deliberately place my heavy, 3-foot-long Maglite flashlight on that seat. Not because I think it would do any good, but because, even all these years later, I just can't stand the sight of it being completely empty anymore.